Hitachi Construction Machinery has decided that being the 8th largest construction equipment manufacturer in the world just isn't good enough anymore. Their new goal? Number 3 by 2030. And they're bringing out the big hitters to get it done. Literally. But we'll get to that a little later. Hitachi Construction Machinery is becoming Landcross in April of 2027. But we've talked about that already, so I'm not going to beat you over the head with the same name change again. Because the much more interesting story is what they're planning to do after it. Right now, Hitachi ranks 8th globally in construction equipment revenue at roughly $9 billion. $9 billion. Peasants. Third place currently belongs to XCMG at about $14.2 billion. So Hitachi isn't talking about sneaking past one competitor here. They want to climb 5 spots and establish what company president Masafumi Senzaki called a clear number 3 position by 2030. And apparently a huge part of that plan for Hitachi involves North America, my hometown. But before we get into all that, welcome back to another episode of Downtime presented by, you know it, Conequip Parts, where if you have downtime, you might as well spend it with us. And if you have heavy equipment, you should absolutely 1000% get your parts from Conequip Parts. Give us a call anytime, 716-836-5069, or head over to conequip.com/shop, punch in that silly little SKU, and we can get you back to work lickety-split. Lickety-split, yeah. But let's get into today's topic. Hitachi says it wants to become a tier 1 OEM here and plans to invest more than $3 billion in North America over the next several years.
$1 billion.
That's going towards things like acquisitions, research and development, technology, and of course hiring. But they wisened up because they're also coming after equipment categories Hitachi basically hasn't participated in here. Starting with possibly the most important one in North America, compact track loaders, or CTLs. Or if you call them skid steers, that's fine too. We got some heat on one of our last episodes calling them CTLs. There's a difference, people. The main difference being that, you know, one has tracks and one doesn't, but tomato, I guess. But yeah, Hitachi or Landcross or HITACROSS or Lendachi or whatever we're calling them in this awkward transitional phase is getting into CTLs. And if you're wondering why, the answer is always money. Compact track loaders have become the #1 category for new financed construction equipment sales in the United States, and Hitachi says roughly 90,000 CTLs are being sold every year between the US and our Maple Leaf brothers, Canada. So while Hitachi has traditionally been sitting over there building, you know, excavators, watching Bobcat, Cat, Deere, Kubota, Takeuchi, and everyone else fight over this gigantic market, somebody at Hitachi finally sat down at this big board table and was like,
guys, I have a brilliant idea. We should sell a skid steer. I seriously think it's a good idea.
Jimmy, that's brilliant! Why didn't we think of this before?
Landcross plans to launch its first 2 CTL models in North America next summer. So hot girl summer for Hitachi, Landcross. Initially on a regional basis, but they're gonna not stop there, of course. The plan is to build that into a complete lineup of 8 CTLs over roughly the following 2 years. They're also exploring a compact equipment collaboration with Yanmar, everybody's favorite diesel engine company, although the company says it's going to work with some established OEM partners to manufacture some of these new machines. And CTLs aren't the only new sandbox they're jumping into. They're also entering the articulated dump truck market. Hitachi says it's working with a well-known partner on the ADTs, but shh, it's a secret. And they have plans to announce who that partner will be this fall, and maybe rolling those around next summer. So keep your eyes peeled, because it's going to be hot girl Hitachi summer.
Hitachi girl summer?
And after the CTLs, skid steers are already being considered. See? There's a difference. Compact track loaders have tracks. Skid steers have wheels. Because once you've decided you're going from the 8th to the 3rd in just 4 years, I guess you might as well just start checking every box in the equipment catalog. But Hitachi isn't abandoning what it's actually known for, excavators. And they're doubling down there too. 4 next-generation mini-axes are headed to the market under Landcross branding, including the new ZX35U-7 they've already shown to dealers. Hey OEMs, come up with some cool names, like the Chevy Malibu. Like the Hitachi Mountain Eagle would be sick. Yeah, I've got the Hellcat 3 excavator, dude. And Hitachi is also entering the North American wheeled
Saying what weird?
excavator market with its 2 largest wheeled models, which is interesting because wheeled excavators are everywhere in parts of Europe, but they've never had anywhere near the same presence in North America. I actually don't really know if I've ever seen a wheeled excavator here in New York. Can you let me know if they actually exist? You can never be sure in this modern age of AI. They're just excavators that traded tracks for tires.
Duh.
You get mobility, road travel, and the ability to bounce between jobs without necessarily needing to throw the machine on a trailer every time. And Hitachi apparently believes there's enough opportunity here to finally bring its big wheeled machines into the North American lineup. They're also looking in the complete opposite direction. Hitachi says there's room to push its construction excavators up towards the 100-ton class, while potentially bringing over more specialty machines for things like demolition and material handling. So smaller excavators, bigger excavators, wheeled excavators, CTLs, and potentially skid steers, everybody's favorite. I can't stress enough that there's a difference between those two. They've got articulated dump trucks, mining stuff, parts and service, rental, technology. They're basically looking around the equipment industry like a guy at the Golden Corral who just paid for the buffet and is determined to get his money's worth. And I know you know somebody like that. And there's another piece to this strategy that's really easy to miss. Landcross isn't supposed to just sell machines. Hitachi says it wants to expand further into fleet management, maintenance, monitoring, and remote machine control, while putting more emphasis on its Acme wholesale rental business. So if you were wondering, that's where Wile E. Coyote gets all of his stuff from. It's Hitachi. So the strategy isn't simply just sell more excavators. It's sell more of basically everything. Get into markets we're not currently hitting and expand the technology and service businesses around those machines, and just spend billions of dollars doing it. Which brings us to the most important part of the global heavy equipment expansion strategy. Can you guess? You're right. It's Shohei Ohtani. Yep, Landcross just signed Shohei Ohtani as its global brand ambassador. A baseball player as an ambassador for a heavy equipment OEM. That's weirdly American? I guess we have more in common than we thought. Who would you like to see doing a celebrity endorsement of an equipment OEM? Drop it in the comments. I want to see your answers. But if you're asking me, and I know you're not because I'm in control right now, I would love to see Tony the Tiger get on some cat sponsorship, or that kid that did that vine of that big old bobcat.
What you got there?
Big old Bobcat.
Do an ad for Bobcat? That'd be sick. I know The Rock has plenty of gigs on his own, but The Rock playing a big rock for an ad about moving rocks would live rent-free in my brain. And lastly, it's my strong opinion that Jack Ferver, aka the little ad from the Berries and Cream Starburst commercial, deserves a second chance at stardom. So I think they should give him a call. Anybody, any of the OEMs, I don't care. I would just love to see it. Apparently, being one of the greatest baseball players on earth wasn't enough. Now the man has to go and sell excavators too. And honestly, if your company is trying to go from number 8 to number 3 in the world in just 4 years, hiring the guy who somehow manages to be an elite pitcher and an elite hitter feels extremely on brand. They needed someone who represented doing way too much, sometimes at an absurdly high level. Naturally, Seth Fonda was unavailable, so they called Ohtani. By the way, the total dollar amount of this deal with Ohtani has not been specified, but seeing as though he just had his MLB contract for $700 million, I'd imagine he demanded a pretty penny from Landcross. So the Landcross name change isn't really the story anymore. That's old news. The story is that Hitachi is treating this almost like a second startup. They're independent from the old Hitachi corporate structure. They're rebuilding their presence in North America. They're entering massive new equipment categories, and they're throwing billions of dollars at the expansion.
$1 billion.
Now they want to go from number 8 to number 3, all by 2030, behind only Caterpillar and Komatsu. Will they actually pull that off? I have absolutely no idea. But if Landcross CTL starts showing up everywhere over the next couple of years, and Shohei Ohtani is suddenly standing next to excavators every time you turn on your television, you'll know why. Hitachi isn't just changing its name. They're changing the game. They're trying to completely change where they sit in the heavy equipment world, and they're not planning on doing it quietly. And that's going to be it. Thank you for coming and watching Downtime with me, Mr. Downtime. Catch you next week to enjoy your downtime with Downtime on Downtime.
Let me tell them. Downtime, it's about time. Big bad problem, trying to strip it down line. Downtime, turning all the cash to dirt. Downtime, getting us back to work.